Welcome back to another episode of Judge of Character, the show where I look at comic book characters who get portrayed radically different and then decide which interpretation is the best one. Today's episode is Lex Luthor. Lex has been shown in a variety of different ways over the years, with hair, with red eyebrows, as Gene Hackman, but beyond the surface level, Lex has been written completely differently by different people. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Originally, Lex was just a generic criminal during the Golden Age. From there, he morphed into a mad scientist who slowly became more and more brilliant as time went on. Now, this eventually led to the modern interpretation of Lex, with him becoming one of the smartest humans in the DC universe. Number one, if you ask me. But with that, it seems difficult to digest that someone as smart as him could just run around as an over-the-top supervillain, which is why the character has changed with the times, and he did so most notably with the John Byrne reboot of Superman. So, what are the differences? Well, let's just weigh in. Mad Scientist Lex was shown to hold a grudge against Superboy because Superboy was the reason why Lex lost his hair after an experiment gone wrong. Yep, that was the spark that set off one of the biggest rivalries in history. But now, this Lex does have his advantages. Sure, he has been played as the goofy baddie who stole 40 cakes one time, but he is still more fun and easier to write, because unless you are the smartest person on Earth yourself, it can be very difficult to write a character that's meant to be light years ahead of the rest of the human race. And some of this interpretation of Lex's most memorable and fun aspects have included things like him living in a sewer and planning to blow up California to gain beachfront property, him leading the Legion of Doom, and on top of all that, this is also the same version of Lex that is known for having a gigantic kryptonite-powered robot suit, which was a popular element of the character. So popular that it even made a comeback with the modern-day Lex Luthor in media such as the Justice League cartoon, in video game form, and in the comic books. However, that does lead us to the post-reboot Lex. When John Byrne rebooted Superman, he reimagined Lex as a corporate mastermind. He would be seen as a very different kind of evil, one that would be the untouchable corruption that controls all of Metropolis. And for the most part, it's portrayed that the public at large believes Lex Luthor to be a good guy and a philanthropist. It's only the Justice League and the Daily Planet that think of him as a heel. And with him employing the majority of Metropolis, mostly through legal means might I add, and with the Justice League having no hard evidence to convict him of any of his crimes, and with him eventually becoming the President of the United States, this Lex became a great supervillain who was written as a much different threat than what DC was used to. And it's this version of Lex that has been prominently adapted for properties such as Smallville, the Ruby Spear Superman, and the DCAU, among others. But with all that being said, herein lies a conundrum, because certain elements of the OG Lex Luthor had to completely go away, or they had to be considered a real stretch to include with the modern interpretation. If the majority of people believe him to be a good guy, then him running around in a giant robot suit blasting Superman is a really hard sell. But as previously mentioned, writers did still go there from time to time, and that is exactly the problem. So while some like the more old school over-the-top mad scientist Lex Luthor and others prefer the more cerebral CEO Lex Luthor, and while some minor points of either interpretation are interchangeable, overall you really just have to commit to just one or else it contradicts the whole thing. Let's get down to business. Who am I ruling in favor of? Well, the verdict goes to the John Byrne Lex Luthor. This is just a much smarter use of the character, and it makes him a more realistic enemy. Sure, there are a lot of fun aspects that the earlier Lex has, but I would gladly sacrifice all of them just to get the menacing corporate Lex Luthor that we know and love today. And for those who need their OG fix, I am perfectly fine with some bits of old school Lex resurfacing from time to time, like Otis, Miss Tessmacher, and him being the secret leader of the Legion of Doom, as long as it's kept hidden and away from the public eye. Because once the bubble is burst that Lex is a supervillain, it becomes really hard to rationalize him going back to being a loved public figure. But all in all, when all is said and done, the verdict goes to the modern day Lex Luthor. But tell me your thoughts down in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.